Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Waterville City Council meeting for Monday, November the 25th, 2024 to order. I would ask our clerk, our vice mayor to lead us in the prayer.
Loving God, as we come together tonight for the City of Waterville, we pause to ask you to be with us and guide our way. May your spirit of peace surround all we say and do this evening. We ask for your strength to do what is best for the good of Waterville. Lord God, as servants of your people, we pray that you grant us a share of your wisdom. Amen.
Thank you, and I'd ask Anthony Bruno to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I would ask the clerk to present roll call.
Here.
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 Next, we have approval of two sets of minutes, one the regular meeting and a special council meeting. So we'll go with the regular council meeting of November the 13th and need a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
So moved. Tony Garber in his second.
Second.
Second, Todd Borowski. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the approval of a special city council meeting which was held on November the 18th. I'd ask for a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan. Need a second.
Second.
Second, John Rozick. Any more discussion?
I'll have to abstain from that. I was not
All
at
right.
that meeting.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And note that council member Anthony Bruno abstained. Thank you. Next is citizen comments, and I do have one up here. I'd like to ask Mr. Dave Weber if he could please go to the podium and state your name and address, please. And you got some handouts. That's great.
That's okay. We can share.
Tony and our friends will share.
Sure.
And I can email anyone PDF afterwards. Is this working? Can you hear me? Yeah, my name's Dave Weber, and I'd like to introduce
You gotta talk right into the mic.
myself and our organization. We're called the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor. We're a nonprofit group of volunteers, and our mission has to do with, well, many things, but one is the heritage of the Maumee River Valley watershed. So basically, I think it's like 7 counties, and all the way from Toledo all the way up to Fort Wayne. One of our big activities is that we help ODOT to manage what's called the Maumee Valley Scenic Byway, and you're probably familiar with it because it runs right through town, and you probably approved of it years ago. But basically, that scenic byway, I think about it like a inexpensive family map for a day trip, where you can visit different interesting scenic waypoints along the way. And so basically that's kind of how we got involved with this. One of these waypoints is the scenic overlook for the Roche de Boeuf Bridge. And so basically I'm working in this nonprofit, and I was recently elected to be chairman of what's called the Development Committee, which has to do with writing grants to get general money in for the nonprofit, and then also to work on special projects and get grant money for special projects. So basically, I've been in discussions with Mr. Pedro for the past, 2 months, and we've been discussing a few different things. One is to get a resolution, and I think you passed it already, and that's to get a delay of the destruction of the bridge so that we can look into other alternatives. It's interesting when you read the ODOT's report on this. They looked at a whole bunch of alternatives, and one, of course, was to demolish the bridge totally. And then they had another one to bring it back, to totally bring it back. And it was this horrendous price tag on it. And the reason was that the alternative was to knock the bridge totally down and then rebuild it again. So you end up with a bridge that's not really the same bridge. It will be brand new and everything, but do you really want to pay $14 million for that? And so what we were thinking about was writing a grant, and that's on that handout I gave you. When we first started talking about this, we knew that we had a tight deadline, and that was 2 months ago. Well, now it's the chickens have come to roost, and there's a deadline of like 5 days away. The good news is I think that we could submit something. There's never any guarantees of this grant. I spoke to the administrator today of this. It's called TAP, Transportation Alternatives Program, and it has to do with promoting getting electric bikes in place. And so when I spoke to him, I asked him, what's the match on it? How much will they pay for and how much is matched? And he said there's two possibilities. One is there's one where it's 100% if you can show that it's for safety, if there's a safety aspect to it. And then there's another one where it's 95% with a 5% match. And even with that one, I think that we could follow up and get the other 5%. And the reason is that ODOT also has this program where they pay for improvements to scenic overlooks. And so I haven't applied for that yet, but I could apply for that. That's something I can apply for from our organization because, again, we manage the scenic overlooks along the Maumee. So, and then also that 5%, you're allowed to donate what's called labor in kind. So basically, if the city of Waterville hit the submit button and you were the submitter, then basically the assumption is that an amount of money would come in at some future date, and then at that point there would need to be someone to administer it, and then that someone would be able to charge their time as in-kind labor. And so I'm not sure what the charge is. Last I looked at this, it was $15 an hour. It's probably higher now with inflation, but in any case, even if you have to pay the 5% match, it can be matched with labor in kind. So basically, I'd like to ask the council, would it be okay that our group, our development committee, could complete the grant as an online form, put down either Mr. Pedro or Mr. Gokenauer's name on it and address, and hit the submit button. So basically, I don't think you're committing to any money. It's just you're allowing me and my committee to hit a submit button in your name. And so I've outlined it there, what the background is, what the advantages are. And it isn't a total renovation. What we're proposing is to just renovate the first two arches on the north side. And the idea there is twofold. One is if you can renovate the first two arches, it gives you a pretty good idea how much it costs to renovate. And it also gives you an idea of the condition of what the arches are. A lot of times you have to take out all the fill to see what's underneath the fill. There's a concrete arch with earth fill on top. So if you dig out the fill, that gives you a big advantage because you can see the top of the arch. And then technology has moved on since 1908, and there is very lightweight fill. Now, you can buy foamed glass fill. It's an aggregate that is only like 10 pounds per cubic foot. It's very light. It's almost like styrofoam, but a little heavier than that. And the advantage is that the fill is what's pushing on the spandrels. That's the reason why the spandrels are bulging out, and then they go so far they just collapse. It's the weight of the wet earth that they used as a fill. The hydrostatic pressure just pushes it out, and it breaks. So we'd like to spend an estimated $250,000 to try to renovate those first two arches and to add a ramp to get up to the top from the north side, because as you know, the bridge was demolished that goes over River Road, so the only way to get up onto the bridge would be to create a ramp, an earthen ramp up to it so you can get construction equipment up there, and then pay to have that earth fill removed. And at that point you can inspect, and assuming everything looks pretty good, it just needs a little bit of crack patching and maybe some reinforcement of the spandrels to keep them from bulging further. Then you can backfill it with this light aggregate, and then put if you put a fence, a low fence over the outline of the bridge, that would allow you to take the towpath trail, which currently ends at that little scenic overlook there where you can park, and bring it up, have a trail go up the ramp, and then out about a little less than 100 feet, and then you'd have a really nice scenic view from there, so people could come and visit and walk out and look out over the river in both directions. So it's kind of like, it isn't asking for the whole thing at once. We aren't asking to renovate the whole bridge on this go-around. It's mainly to try to renovate just the first two arches, just so we can get a handle on what it cost. It's mainly to find out what it costs to do the rest of it. I suspect it's nowhere near $14 million, and it may even be less than the $2 million that ODOT wants to pay to knock it down. So it's a little bit like, you know, when you're at home and you have a choice of fixing something up or just totally throwing it away and filling up a landfill and going out to the store and buying a new one. That's not the way to go. It's far better to just try to fix it up, keep the heritage, and so that's kind of it.
So, if you're done,
Yeah.
council might ask some questions. I want to make just a couple statements. So, Mr. Weber and a couple other volunteers, we've had some conversations, we've had a couple meetings, some coffee, and have been discussing this. And then subsequently, I asked council a couple meetings ago to send make a request to ODOT to maybe pause on the demolition plans. And I know they have to come back to us anyway to sign off on it, so this is timely. Now, I know we're squeezing those 4 or 5 days, but Dave and I have had conversation. Other organizations within the community, I know you talked to some others here, organizations, and they're supporting this moving forward. It's like anything else, you need a couple leaders to start the process. And as I said the day before, once the bridge is gone, it's gone. So now's the time, if there's going to be some discussions about rehabbing part of it or all of it, we're in that window of time to do it. That doesn't mean that ODOT hasn't done their job. I think they've done they've done what they had to do. They've kept the administrator and us informed. So it's not that we don't believe there's been something done incorrectly. It's just that we got some citizens that have stepped up with some organizations, and I think it's incumbent upon council to permit this grant to go through. And subsequently, there'll be more probably meetings and more opportunity to work this out. So with having said that, I'll start off with Vice Mayor Mary Duncan.
I'm pretty familiar with the group. My husband's part of that group, Scott Duncan, and so
Oh, yeah.
I've heard the talk, and I do support your efforts. I think it's a wonderful thing. We'll see what we can do, you know.
Thanks for coming here tonight. I also support the efforts. I did have a couple questions. The numbers you put on the cost estimate, was this something that you worked with?
No.
Okay.
No, this is estimates. It's I had another project recently where I worked with Toledo, and it was another bridge, and I got a engineering firm involved, and they did some pro bono work. And I was thinking of doing that again, but the whole thing fell through, and I really don't want to. Basically, our group doesn't have the money to spend to get an engineering assessment. So
Yet.
this is basically putting it down as kind of a not to exceed number. So it's basically we get a grant, and then it kind of gives us an idea, and hopefully it's not too far off. I didn't know how to handle the land purchase either. That one was kind of weird. When you look at the auditor for the property owner where the ramp would go, according to the Lucas County map, he owns both sides of River Road. And when I did the calculation and calculated the acreage, it came out to like over 8 acres, but it's only tax assessed for 4 acres. So I didn't quite know how to handle what the value was worth. So what I did is I just took the 4 acres that they said, and the fact that the land is worth $50,000, and I just divided it and got a number. I think it was like 120,000 an acre, and then I multiplied it times the 0.38 acres that's on the south side, or the acreage that's between the river and the river road, and that's where I came up with a number of around 47,000. If I were the property owner, I would snap that up. I mean, it's basically, you can't build anything on it. It's just a cliff, and but you know, I can't really, you know, it's really hard to estimate the value of land. It's just a kind of a rough calculation using the assessed value of that property on the north side of the River Road.
John, when that property sold before, the bridge, did it include that property too, or no? Because the bridge sold for very cheap.
You know, it would, it probably would have included the right-of-way. which
The
was
right-of-way,
that-
exactly.
that's-
Yep.
But I guess that fell through.
Yep, it did fall through, that's right.
But yeah, it would have probably included that.
So,
Portion anyway.
we're looking at 4 to 5 days with Thanksgiving around the corner, Friday. I'm not sure many people are working. So are you trying to submit this like tomorrow?
Well, the deadline is November 30th to hit the submit button. If I don't do it, it's not the end of the world. It just means you have to wait another year.
Yeah. No, I'm all for it, so. Yeah, thank you for showing up tonight, thank you.
Tony?
Certainly, thank you for your time and your committee's time that you put in on this. I mean, it's certainly a worthy effort. So I understand how you came with the numbers for the land. How did you come up with numbers, say, to put up reinforcing walls? Did you talk to some concrete experts, or?
I used to be in construction, so it's just, again, it's another swag number. But I haven't spoken to any engineering firms
Okay.
or any any construction firms. But I figured that, you know, putting the walls up is kind of like the equivalent of putting an in-ground basement, concrete in. It's just, you probably would want to have a little more reinforcement, welded rebar reinforcement, and then you do the pour.
Okay, thank you.
Wait,
I'm on it.
John?
Did you pass?
I did. I figure you're gonna talk enough for both of us.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Probably will. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Dave, very much. This has been in discussion for quite a while, this bridge, and I'm glad it's not, you know, we're not done with it yet, so thank you very much. But just a couple, what's the name of your organization? I'm sorry.
It's called the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor.
Heritage Corridor?
Yeah, if you want to look at the website, it's all those words, mushtogether.org.
Okay. And the grant application is to where?
The grant is going to, actually to ODOT itself, and it's for a program called Transportation Alternative Program. And it's mainly to try to get, to promote electric bikes and their usage. So the ultimate aim of this, even though this grant won't get you there all the way, is to make that bridge totally renovated and then have a bike path across it, which would have a connection with Waterville and Haskins by bike, by electric bike.
So that, the estimate here is just to rejuvenate or rehab or fix usably, so it's usable. The first two?
Yeah, and
Arches.
another reason for that, by the way, is that was one of the alternatives in the original 2009 ODOT study. It was called Alternative 7, and it was to just renovate one arch. The main driver for this whole thing is when you look at their memorandum of agreement, it has Metro Parks Toledo on the top, and I couldn't figure out why is Metro Parks Toledo on there. The bridge doesn't touch any of their land, and they don't own it. Well, it turns out Toledo Metro Parks manages another trail. It's called the Maumee River Water Trail. It's a kayak trail, and so they had a keen interest in making that safe. They didn't want to have anything in the news saying a piece of concrete fell and killed a kayaker. So by renovating one arch and making it safe, then you can put signage upstream and downstream and just say, go under that arch. Don't go under the other arches till we can fix them. So that's another advantage of this. It's kind of an inexpensive way to kind of kick the can down the road on the fact that the bridge is falling apart. If you can just make one arch safe, then it's safe for the kayakers as long as you keep people off the top of the bridge. So, yeah, that's another advantage. It's an inexpensive way of quickly making that condition safe for kayakers.
So this wouldn't stop the demolition of the rest of the bridge, although that's not on the horizon yet, I don't think, Mayor.
So it's my understanding that the ODOT has certain stages to go through, and they would plan to do this in '25. That might get pushed to '26 if there've been no ideas to renovate it. But we're at the red zone.
Yeah.
We're at the, and I know, John, you mentioned this was a topic was talked about when Congressman Bob Latta was here. It was just a casual conversation, and I know there's some other community leaders, political leaders have had conversations. So Dave and his group, and there's others, I gave her a raise, former council member Barb Bruno was also at one of the meetings that we attended. So, and there's some others in the community I think are interested, but that don't know where to begin. I'll cut you off, John. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. And just one more, and that's the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor. ODOT is familiar with your organization, I assume. Is that right? Or
Yeah, well, yeah, ODOT's pretty big. I can tell you that the manager for the scenic byway with ODOT, he's quite familiar with us. You know, we deal with him all the time. And then this, you know, I've been in discussions too with the person that's handling what they call the memorandum of agreement to knock down the bridge. And I should let you know too, just today I sent a letter out to her with another thing that we're investigating. I've been doing quite a bit of research on Native American history, and so I sent a letter basically saying two things. One is their signatories on the memorandum of agreement did not include the Mescoutan tribe. This was a tribe that lived probably here in Waterville and either side of the river for probably 1,000 years, and they were kicked out of the area in 1643 because the French armed them with firearms, and the Iroquois came in and committed genocide. And because of that, not only do they have to be, or should they should be added to the memorandum of agreement. But not only that, but there were Indian burial remains found very close to the bridge on the south side. And so in the letter, I'm recommending that ODOT delay long enough and also pay for some archaeological digs there to confirm that there's no burials there, because once they bring in construction equipment, they could tear things up, and Native American burials are a very sensitive topic. So that's kind of an independent effort that we're doing, independent of, you know, this grant. I thought I'd let you know, though.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. One more, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
If the grant is for transportation alternatives for electric bike program, basically, I think that's what you said.
Yes.
But you're only rejuvenating, this is a little technical, but you're only rejuvenating 2 arches. So a bike would not, you couldn't traverse the whole bridge if the bridge is gone. So I'm just wondering how this application, which is for a grant for.
It would only work if you have a complete bridge, right? So the idea here is that this is kind of like an initial investment on renovating the first 2 arches. That gives us a handle on how much it costs, what the condition of the bridge is on both sides of the arch, top and bottom, and then from there you can decide, do we knock it down, or is it actually cheaper to just renovate it? I mean, if it works out, it costs only $250,000 to renovate 2 arches. There's only 12 arches, so you're talking about less than $2 million, and you're talking about spending $2 million to knock it down. So they could actually save money if they made this initial grant, and it worked out, the numbers worked out, you know, to be a lower cost. I can't say that for sure at this point, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mayor. That's good. Appreciate it.
Anthony?
I just want to say thank you for the efforts, and hopefully they pan out.
Thanks.
So I just have 2, and you submit it now. Do you have a timeline when you might hear some feedback, a month, a week, a year? Is there a typical time frame to?
I've only had one other grant before, and yeah, it typically takes a while. It's, you know, many months. It probably won't be till next year, and if anything, just submitting the grant request also sends a message that we're kind of serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we send a letter of resolution saying, hey, we'd like a little time to investigate grant opportunities, and they already have on their desk one of our requests for grants, then they know we're serious and we're making up grants to get this thing done.
And my last question is, I know you came up with a budget. Maybe in the next day or so, you and I and Mr. Gokenauer
For
can
sure.
have a
That's-
conversation and,
That's very rough, and, anything you could do to help, we'll just change it,
right,
it's just a number. Probably when they get it, they aren't gonna care if it's 250 or 500,000. They may just reject it on principle, because they'll say, we're already committed to the tear down. But, you can always be surprised, right?
right.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
All right, well, once again, thank you. I know we spent a
you.
lot of time and
Mayor, if
Appreciate-
I could,
yes.
just on the legal side, are we taking any action on it today?
I believe that I want to have council, agree that we submit this, so we only got a couple days.
Okay, so on the legal side, I'd like to take a look at it to see, I know he's saying, just put just put Waterville's name on it or Gokenauer's name on it. It's probably more than just putting someone's name on it, and it effectively would be the city of Waterville adopting this application, just so council's aware of that.
Okay.
And then we should probably, before we submit it, take a look at what it might lock us into as well.
How do we do that?
I can send you the link to the TAP, and you can call the administrator of this TAP grant. He can possibly give you, just ask him, what kind of liability is there if a grant was accepted?
Yeah, I think it would make sense for Mr. Gokenauer and I to take a look at the application. Certainly, council could make some sort of motion to approve it today, pending the approval from legal and the administrator. Because I know we're under a tight timeline, and it's going to be hard to get all of you guys back together. But Mr. Gokenauer and I can surely expedite whatever investigation we might need to do.
So in general, I don't hear council saying we're not gonna do this. I think it's, an opportunity, and we're pecking away at it, step by step. So, I'll take the first stab at the motion, and Katie, I'll rely on you to clean it up. I move that the City of Waterville City Council, pass a resolution in support of submitting an application to ODOT for the TAP program for the Rooster Cliff Bridge, and the pending any legal shortfalls. I'll defer to John and Katie on that. Also, that the amount for the grant will be finalized in the next few days.
I second.
Wayne Wagner seconded. Any more discussion? John, that sound good, what I said? Good. So it's been moved and seconded, and I need a motion. Where we got a motion. All those in favor?
We probably should formalize what Katie was saying about the final decision would be made by John and Katie as to,
You can include that. I stand.
is that in there? Good.
Yep.
All right,
I mean, I agree with you, yes.
yeah.
All right, so moved and seconded. Roll call? Or motion? All those in favor for that resolution, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
I don't have any other citizens that gave us a communication piece, so we'll move on to old business. Resolution 38. Yeah, I thought everybody's paying attention. So, we're gonna move into staff reports, and I made a mistake last meeting. Our new Public Works Director, I completely forgot him. So, Rob, you're first up. The bar is real high.
Mr. Mayor, good evening, everyone. How we doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
Glad to hear it. Just a few things here. The shared use path, getting pretty close to being done here, just down to the small punch list items. I put that they started milling on the 18th. Obviously, I typed that up before. You can see now that it's all paved. So, hydrant painting in progress, leaf collection. We're running 2 trucks all day. Just asking everybody, just be patient, we'll get there. Christmas decorations, everything's going up. And I want to spend a little time on the unknown service line letters that went out. So back in April, I sent the letter out to everybody. Those that didn't respond all got this unknown service line letter. The wording in it's not very good. It sounds like we have lead in the water, which is not the case. It's just everybody that didn't answer my first letter now gets the unknown service line letters. So I've had quite a few calls. People are concerned. If they have any more concerns, they call, email. I've been going to everybody's house myself and verifying everybody's service line. With that, that's about all I have. If there's any questions or comments.
Council?
Are all the signs up for the new shared path? All the?
No.
Not, okay.
Is Farnsworth finished? We were striping today, right?
Well,
That's-
Farnsworth has a temporary paint because we have thermoplastic paint that.
It's too cold.
It's too cold, so
I knew it.
we'll have to do that in the spring.
Okay.
And then there's a punch list for valve boxes, manholes that were paved over, things like that. And then
Little
seating
things.
has to be done again in the spring. So
Okay.
yeah, so
We're
so
close.
we're I'd say 95%.
We took the detour signs down.
Yes, they took the signs down today.
People are happy.
People didn't like obey him before.
No.
I know, but they didn't like them. You know, everyone says, but is it finished? But is it finished? I wanted to make sure the answer was drive on it.
Yes.
Okay.
So Rob, quick question. You are dumping leaves out at, off of Anthony Wayne Trail here, correct?
Yeah.
Are we gonna transfer those over to?
Yep.
That's
That
the
gets
plan.
done weekly.
When we're
Pardon me?
done.
That gets done weekly.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
nice, okay, excellent. Is that working out? I would imagine.
We're saving a lot of time by doing
Absolutely.
that, yes.
And then just on downtime, you're planning on transferring all of them and?
We dedicate an individual to that on basically Thursdays and Fridays. That's what they do all day, is haul them to renew them.
Okay, great, yeah, thanks.
No questions.
Wayne?
I think I'm good. Just incredible amount of hours put into leaf collection, which is good. So,
John Roldick?
Already asked, thanks.
Anthony Bruno. So just a couple comments. Thank you. I'm hearing from citizens the lead are being picked up. You know, that's one of the things that we hear a lot about, and it's nice to have your team out there. So thank you. And I heard you say in the beginning, obviously leaves came down later this year, even though we scheduled on our written material that it'd be X date. You're still going to go around and pick them up.
Yeah, we'll still continue.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you. You can be last next time, okay? And now we'll go in the order of our administrator. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Council has a copy of my report. The Public Works Director mentioned about Farnsworth, so there's a punch list, and more than likely, the seating obviously has to be done in the spring, and the permanent street painting has to be done when the weather is above 70 degrees, so that's where we are there. We've been meeting with the Christmas volunteers and committees, so that is Christmas to Remember in Waterville, scheduled for Sunday, December 8th, 2024. So that's coming up, and we're getting those items out and put up. I also wanted to mention we have our annual Christmas party for employees and volunteers, and that's Thursday, December 19th, and that's from 6 to 9. And we're trying out we're trying out Brandywine Country Club in Maclova Township. It's a little bigger, a little more room. I think the Legion Hall maybe was a little tight last year, so we're gonna give that a shot. And so that is going around there. And if council has any other questions?
I'll just, John and I talked about the Christmas dinner, and I think we have a great staff. And I asked him to look into some other locations, and I think this is nice. It's in our Anthony Wayne School District, and it's just a nice way to say thank you to our staff members. So thanks for setting it up, John.
Includes round of golf, right?
Yeah, it might be warm enough. You're right. Yeah,
It might be, yeah.
Tony. Alrighty.
I just want one quick one,
Yes,
John,
sir.
on the ice skating rink. I just wondered if Prairie Trail was considered as a location.
Well, I think we did originally. We wanted to have parking that was close by and lights and,
Lights would be the difference, I guess.
and that's really why it is where it is. And, you know, we picked a better spot. The Public Works Department shot the grades, and then we rolled it out a little better, so it should be closer to being level.
Level,
It's not quite,
yeah.
but within inches. So that should work better, and hopefully, well, depending on what your preference is, if it gets cold, we'll have ice. If it doesn't, we won't.
Thanks.
So,
Alrighty, we will move on to our law director.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Our finance director.
thank you, Mayor. Council has a copy of the finance report, so this is our September report. For the month of September, we ended the month with a balance of $13,173,946. We have our check report. The reader report is at the back. I know that's usually the star attraction of the report, but I mentioned at the last meeting, you know, we had less collection in October than we had in September. So it does look like you know, we had 2 months in a row where we were off on our collections compared to what we collected last year. So I guess that is a little bit concerning, and in the budget that you know, we prepared the 5-year capital and the operating budget, we might have to revise that down, and you know, we will anyway in terms of what our actual collection is in January. But so you know, it is coming in a little lower than we expected. But we collected $346,666 in November. So our year-to-date total is $4,893,909. That is about $35,949 less than what we collected in November of 2023. We are still ahead of our estimated income tax projection for 2024, which was a little over $5 million. So I think we're going to be getting to that. I mean, we should make that number, but it'll probably be a little closer to 5.1 million for an ending balance there. So we'll have to take a look at that in the budget. And but as I mentioned before, we always revise the budget in January with actual expenses and revenues, and gives us a good picture of I guess where we are when we finalize the 2025 budget.
Council, questions for John on the finance report?
John, I have one, and actually it goes back to your report as well. When does our contract with Republic end?
It would be June of 2025.
Okay.
We are in the process of, I guess, revising our contract with, and when I say revising it, updating it for a bid.
Okay.
And so we'll be ready to put out a bid, and I would think we would want to do that as early as we can. We'll take a look at if there's any legal restrictions on when we can put it out, but I would say at the beginning of the year. We have some contractors that have expressed interest in bidding, and then of course Republic is always welcome to submit a bid as well. We would put out a bid for 3 and 5 years again.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we will move on to our treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of council. You have a copy of my report. First of all, I'd like to thank John for putting on his old finance director accounting hat for another month, maybe 2. And done a great job. I know he's doing yeoman's work right now, doing 2 jobs. So, but we do have the September reports done. And the only thing I'm going to say is, if you look, you'll see that for September, this year versus last year is almost dead on where we were last year. And we're right where I always tell you, around September is when we start spending money. And so it's almost every year, September, we start the downward trend. And I will tell you, October will be less because we've written some big paving checks and other things too. So again, right now it's trending exactly as I would have anticipated. So that's really the end of my report.
Questions for Steve? All right,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Steve?
Next is our police chief.
Evening, Mayor and Council. You should have a copy of my report. A few things to add. Our flock cameras are set up. We were able to get a stolen vehicle already off of it. I was able to get out on the street with the guys and go play with them, and ended up with a good arrest, and they did a good job. We asked the public, our eyes and ears, if they see anything during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas coming up, please call 911. Anything suspicious, odd, that's what 911's for, to help us out and get us in the area. Please call. We've had a few break-ins at the metro parks, smash and grabs, purses underneath seats. So that happened about a month ago. With the holidays also coming up, domestic violence is on the rise. Have a little patience with family members, go for a walk, but don't hesitate to call us. We love to mediate and keep the peace. That's about it.
Questions for our police chief?
I just want to say thank you. I had seen in the news that there were some people that had stolen about $5,000 worth of product from Dillard's, and it looked like Waterville was the agency that was able to make the arrest. So
We did.
thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
They stopped at McDonald's for a hamburger.
Joe got they did.
Joe got lucky.
Joe was here.
Joe, I just want to compliment, if I may, Mayor. It's kind of a funny story, really, and my wife said maybe you shouldn't say anything, but here I am. We had our grandchildren over Friday evening, and one of them, a 5-year-old, was having a bit of a fit, if you know what I mean. So she was not getting her way, basically, and crying in our front hallway, rather loudly. At that very moment, your officer delivered the packet for tonight's meeting. So I just want you to know how observant our police officers are, and they're really paying attention. He knocked on the door just to make sure that everything was okay, because he heard our granddaughter crying inside the house. So I felt good about it, really. That was very nice. I don't know who it was. My wife answered the door, so I'm not sure who delivered, but compliment him, whoever it was.
I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, I did want to say, in the report, I did notice mental health and suicide, so maybe it's that time of year, and maybe we make people aware that there is help out there, the 988 and so forth on the website. So,
Yes, we
yeah,
will.
yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? I have a couple comments, but I'll wait. All right, so on page 3, I noticed that on October 27th, officers stopped a vehicle on Waterville Swanton Road near US 24, traffic offense. Obviously, looks like there was lots of drugs there. So you get a feel for that's an uptick, or just
I think it's the corridor area. People are getting off to get gas before they get to Napoleon, or go the other way where it's busier gas stations. I don't think it's embedded in the community. I think it's just coming off the
okay.
interstate.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Welcome.
Next, our fire chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So to help out Rob, as he's back here telling me, he forgot to mention that the Bear Park bathrooms are closed now. We're putting it out on Facebook, but just to make that public announcement. You have a copy of my report, some things to add. The 5K run went really well. There was no incidents. There were 4 children that ran it. 3 of those 4 were mine. My son ran it as well, and my daughter in the actual 5K event. So I had all 5 of my children run. I chose not to run, but I will be running in the Maumee one, so here comes the city of Maumee. I have had several meetings with senior facilities lately to try to make sure that we continue to build that relationship with them, to make sure that we're getting the proper calls and not unnecessary calls and things. So trying to keep that up. We have had a couple administrative changes to several facilities in the area. Usually when there's an administrative change is when that starts to happen, so I tried to get ahead of that. I want to throw out a thank you to John's Manville. They dropped off a turkey for each shift to have near the holidays so that each shift could cook a turkey at the station, whether they're working Thanksgiving or not, but at least all shifts got a turkey. And then the last one, this will probably open up Pandora's box. But at the fire chiefs meeting on Wednesday in Jerusalem Township, it was made mention that there is a potential donor for Pulse Point. It would be Local 92, the union for the fire department out of Toledo, is considering it. Now, the issue is the union would have to work with the administrative staff at Toledo, which would mean that they'd have to attend meetings to try to get this through. So they're working through some legalities there. Don't know if that's going to actually make it through. It was mentioned that it is a possibility. So if that's the case, there is a chance, but I do know that they were a little short on the funding. So that's also another hiccup. They may have to ask other municipalities if they're interested in helping to try to pick up some portions of the bill. But it would be the new system, not the old system. So it is the more expensive system, but they are cutting them a discount. So they brought it down to, I think, like $18,000. I think the union, it's projected the union has close to 11,000 to put up, I think. So just wanted to make mention of that, that's ongoing right now. The administrative staff of the fire department is trying to work with Local 92 to try to see what is possible there. So it's all way up in the sky yet. There is no ink checks written, anything like that. It was just made mention so that you could all be aware. That's it. Just pass it on.
Council?
You had stated before that, in your opinion, it's just not worth it, correct? Like there wasn't
Yeah,
any real benefit.
so for us to pay the amount of money that they wanted to run it, it would not be worth it. Now, with a large donor, I'm going to say, like, if it were to work out that a private donor is going to foot 90% of the bill, you divide the rest of the bill, and we pay a nominal $500 or $600 fee. Do I think that's worth it? Yeah, I see that there could be benefit there, but to pay $6,000 is just not worth it to the city of Waterville.
Doug, I have a question. On October 17th, you had reported you were with the United Command meeting, Medicare reimbursement meeting in Oregon. I happened to be with the fire chief, I think, a couple days after that, and it just reminded me. So talk us through that. What was that all about?
So I met with Mr. Gokenauer on this, and I've also met with Chief Francis to find out his opinion on it as well. I went to that meeting to find out some information. There is a group, and I'm sorry I don't have their name right in front of me. There's a consulting group that has picked up the ball and found that if you pay money to Medicare, you write them a check, that they send the check back plus 2/3 more. but it goes off of some data based on your runs and some things of that nature. So there's a program that they're trying to get in place, but the rules for Ohio have not been set. Ohio is one of the last states that is considering getting into this program, so the rules really aren't set. They don't really have an understanding of how it's going to work yet, or where you would pay the money, or how you'd get it back yet, because those haven't been established. I went to the meeting to try to find out if it would benefit us. I can tell you, looking at some of the numbers, to get into it bright and early may not be to our benefit. It would be a lot of work on Mr. Gokenauer and myself to try to keep up for a small amount of recoverable money on that. Now, I will say that if the program gets up and going with some rules, they get some things established, a couple of departments try it, we get to see how this goes. Could that be something down the road that we look into getting into? Yes, and there is nothing in the rules to say you can't get into it later. Yeah. Now, if you don't get into it earlier, do you forfeit the money from 2024? Yes, but at this point, we're at the end of the year right now anyway, so it might be better to carry on. I can tell you Chief Francis is in the same boat that I am. He would rather let some people try to establish this and see how the ground rules are set for it and what needs to be done and how they're gonna collect the data.
Are there any districts or fire departments in the area that are in that program? Is Oregon in it, for an example?
So no one would fully commit in the meeting, so I don't know.
Okay.
Oregon had some city officials in the meeting. Toledo had some city officials in the meeting. Some people are a little skeptical of kind of how it would work without the ground rules. That like they get the concept of getting money back. They understand that, but you know, everything comes with strings attached to it. So, you know, how do they get the data? Where do they get it from? How does your money go? Do you know it's in this fund or that fund? How do you balance it? There was a financial person in there that was asking a lot of questions about how you would show the audit trail behind that from the city of Toledo. And it seemed very skeptical at the moment. There are a lot of states that are doing it, so it can be done. It's just really early on, and to jump into it feet first would be a lot of work for us right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. Alrighty, sir, thank you. Alrighty, next is communication from council members. I'll start with Vice Mayor Duncan.
No report this evening, Your Honor.
Todd Borowski.
Just a quick one. Tim, as I was talking to you today, I think we noted that again, that no turn on red, Anthony Wayne Trail to Mechanic, another car right in front of a car turning from Anthony Wayne Trail on Mechanic. So I think the sign is great that we have no turn on red, but I think we need to just do away with like the time, you know, from, I think it's 7 to 9 and then 4 to 6, yeah. I think we should just have no turn on red there. It's surprising how many times I've almost seen an accident there, so that's it.
Good. Tony?
No report.
No report.
And John?
Nope, thanks, Mayor.
No report.
I just have one, going back to Bob for a minute. I know we're talking about leaves and relatively warm weather and so forth, but getting all ready for snow. We got your equipment fired up?
We don't want to talk about that.
Salt and all that stuff, you're all good? Okay, thank you. All right. Next, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, council, citizens in our community. Alrighty, next is old business, resolution 3824, resolution approving and adopting the City of Waterville fiscal year 2025 5-year capital planning program for all municipal funds and departments. John, you want to elaborate?
Thank you, Mayor. This is our annual 5-year capital program. We presented it at the last council meeting. I mentioned the potential for revising it from a revenue standpoint in terms of projected income tax revenue for 2025. One other thing that I wanted to mention is probably at the next council meeting, I will probably be bringing forward an amendment in regards to the Waterville-Montclova widening project. So originally this project was scheduled for construction in late 2025, and meeting with ODOT, they'd like to move it into the spring of 2026. And I guess I don't have any particular issue with that. We would just have to, we have to move our revenue and expense around in the 5-year capital. So essentially, we would be, moving the project into 2026. I don't think that would change the overall pre-funding schedule very much, but you might have more. Obviously, we'll have less of an expenditure in 2025 because that project is $1.5 million, and then on the revenue side, we were expecting a $1.3 million grant for that. So that expense and revenue will be moved into 2026. So that is a change that we'll be bringing forward in at the next meeting to incorporate and move that into the future.
Okay.
And John, I mean, I'm sure I already know the answer to this. The grant doesn't specify that we have to have the project done by in any time frame, so moving that won't jeopardize
Right,
that.
because ODOT wants us to, so they're agreeing to move it into the future. They're requesting it, so
Okay.
they'll change the agreement to
Okay.
reflect that. Yep.
Awesome, thank you.
And will the grant be adjusted for increased costs?
Actually, we can request an increase, and we will. There's a inflationary thing that you can request, and that has to be approved, but we'll have extra time to get it approved, so, yeah.
Good.
All right, we'll be talking about that in our next couple of meetings. Next is new business, Resolution 4024, a resolution adopting the Lucas County 2024 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazardous Mitigation Plan. John?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a plan that Lucas County puts together. It's on a 5-year basis, and they're revising it for 2024. It's 733 pages, and we have a copy. We can send members of council electronic copy if you'd like. It's fascinating reading, but part of the requirement is that the county has to adopt this, and they have to get every jurisdiction in the county to adopt it as well. One aspect of the city adopting this, it makes us eligible for any hazard mitigation grants and loans that are offered through the state of Ohio and the federal government. I did notice that on page 383 and 384, that's the Waterville section, and it lists our 5 priorities that we had under the old plan, which we essentially have accomplished. So we've identified and mapped the areas of potential flood mitigation in the city. We attempted to acquire a property that has repeated flood loss, and that owner decided not to sell. We actually got a grant for that, but they declined the offer eventually. The third one was purchase and install a standby generator for the municipal building, and we've done that. And then we installed an additional tornado siren, and that's on River Road and the trail, and that was evaluated based on a study that the fire department and the public works department did in terms of what's the best location for that. So we've essentially met our priorities under the old plan. So I think that's a good thing for us. But so this is the Lucas County 2024 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Thank you for that explanation. I need a motion to accept Resolution 4024.
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan. Need a second?
Second.
Second, Todd Borowski. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alrighty. Next is an executive session. This is for consideration of matters per the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee. Need a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan.
Second.
Second, Todd Borowski. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 We will come out of executive session. I don't expect any business to take place afterwards, so you're welcome to stay. So we will adjourn into executive session.